Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Technique Talk with Dr. Isola Jones, where you, the viewers, can ask voice or music questions to one of the greatest vocalists of her generation. Welcome. You
Thank you, Malik.
and I just want to let you know that the viewers have now deemed you mother. They say, "Oh my God, mother, she's mother."
All my babies.
Yes. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first question is from Sophisticated 1194, and they say, I love Dr. Isola Jones, as well as her expansive information and witty humor. My question is, how does a singer, male or female, know when they have reached the top of their range versus perhaps they haven't found out how to navigate their second or third passage?
I would imagine that the rule of thumb is how free is the voice right now. Expanding your range has to be within kind of reason. I love it when people say, I've got a 6 octave range. And my question is, how many of those octaves sound like a human? It is not about range, it is about flexibility, it is about uniformity of beauty and timbre and ease. People, we worship at the feet of high and loud. And God bless those people who can do that. But that's not for everyone. You want to sing well. You want to make a beautiful, authentic sound. You don't want to sound like anybody else. Every great singer, you automatically, as soon as they say, you know who it is. And I think that too often we want to be like everybody else. Be authentically yourself. The passaggio, there are muscles. I think I mentioned this before, M1, M2. M1 navigates the chest register. M2 is for the head register. They have to, it's like a relay race. They hand off to the other muscles and back and forth and back and forth. And that is a very tricky navigation. Everybody's a little different where you feel that, but it should not sound like a gear change. The only singer that you could actually hear that is Montserrat Caballé. When she would go through the middle voice, the passage, you could kind of hear a click. But other people, Audra McDonald, talk about somebody that is, she's an opera singer, but she doesn't primarily sing opera, navigates through the passaggio masterfully. And that's what you want to do. It takes time. And you need someone that is a master helping you, because it is difficult to know exactly how you should feel. You know, you feel something, but it's difficult to know exactly how it's supposed to feel and how it's supposed to sound. And these are part of the building blocks of every voice, regardless of the genre. You've got to learn how to do this smoothly and easily. So as far as the range is concerned, your range is your range. Some sopranos, terrific top, high C and above, but then everything underneath that was sort of breathy and horrible. And when that is repaired, I've heard stories, I don't know anybody personally that has done this, but when that is repaired, the very extreme top might go away, but everything else is gorgeous. And isn't that what you want? Isn't that you want this gorgeous, authentic, free sound? Now that's my answer.
Okay, because when I've been studying people's voices, I was actually talking to another classical singer about this. I'm primarily here in in pop singers, not classical singers, because y'all use y'all's voices differently. So, for example, are you familiar with Shaka Khan? Well,
Mhm.
so Shaka Khan's like best high notes or the way her music is arranged are like E, F, G at the top of the staff. The G seems to be like the last note she can like do vibrato on, but the A flat, A, and the B flat are just very straight tone, almost yelps. And so when I was reading some books, they were like, there's your last like good note, and then you might have a couple above that that you really shouldn't use. How do would you say that that's a gauge also?
For any singer or for pop singers or for opera singers?
Or
Because
do you,
there's a different standard, shall we
Mhm.
say, for classical singers. If you're going to sing a B flat, it better be good. If you're going to sing a C, it better have some vibrato and be free. If you're a pop singer, a lot of singing is for effect. It's not, it is perhaps a text driven, it is emotionally driven, and it is not, has a different standard. There have been pop singers that can sing top notes that are remarkable. Whitney Houston, maybe even Mariah Carey when she was singing well. It was vibrant and totally legit. Whitney Houston could have sung opera if she wanted. Back to Audra McDonald. Audra McDonald went to Juilliard and graduated in opera. She's a Broadway megastar. And the voice is vibrant. It is so vibrant. I guess she's doing Mama Rose in Gypsy on Broadway.
Yes, I've
And
heard they had to raise the keys for her. Yeah.
okay, well, there you go. The Oprah Winfrey made a TikTok entry, and she just raved about Audra McDonald. And I listened to her again, Audra, and I hear it. The vibrancy of the sound sets all of your senses on fire. This is the opera in her that she can't get away from. That's her voice. That's how she produces her voice. And it is exciting. It's thrilling. And top notes, not a problem. She was the one thing that I recently heard her saying, I don't know when the performance was, I could have danced all night. And she has the audience come in and start singing with her or singing instead of her. And then she says, y'all are too good. Let me finish this. And she sings. And at the end, she ends on a high C. And it is vibrant. It isn't a straight tone. It isn't a cipher. It isn't a whistle. It is fully embodied and vibrant. That's what you want. But if a pop singer just generally, or Shaka Khan, or I don't know, Billie Eilish, or I don't know who, anybody else is not going to do that simply because that's not part of the lexicon of their singing. It's not, I mean, how can they do that? Their singing has very little vibrato in it, has a natural vibrato, but I think many times people sort of take that out to give the words more punch, to give the voice a different kind of color. And it's just a different ethos. It just depends on who is singing. If it's an opera singer, it better be vibrant. It better have some vibrato. If it's a pop singer, within the context of what they're singing, that may be perfectly legitimate for that person and for that moment.
And just one last question about range. One of my favorite statements from classical singers is somebody will say, "Do you have this note?" And they'll say, "Oh, not in public." I love when they say that. So for you, what is your like your not in public zone?
Anything above a high C.
Okay.
Anything above a high C. I sang, what was it? Adele's Laughing Song. And at the end, you just kind of touch a high D. I touched it and dropped it like it's hot. All right. I can make excursions. I can make guest appearances in, coloratura land. But I can't live there. Again, it is, what is your goal? Is your goal to sing higher and louder than anybody on earth? Okay. Good luck with that. If your goal is to make a beautiful sound, to do justice to the music, to perform the music, to inhabit the music the way the composer envisioned, does it speak to your soul? I think we are influenced by vocal traditions that may not be so good, but you have to understand your audience and then do justice to the music. Some music requires more. And if you are that person, God bless you. If you're not that person, find something else to sing. That is equally legitimate, equally wonderful. There's plenty of music for everyone.
Speaking of music, the next question is from Lester Matos 2989. And they said, oh my God, please ask her about her experiences working with the wonderful Tatiana Troyanos, my favorite mezzo ever.
I have a good story. I never actually performed with TT, as she was lovingly referred to. But I was singing a string of Carmens at the Met. And I was sitting in the company box, waiting for a friend of mine to make his debut as Camillo. Greg Baker. I don't know if he's African-American bass baritone. I met him when we were doing Porgy and Bess. And so now he's doing Escamillo. And so my husband and I were sitting in the company box, and Agnes Balsa was singing the title role. The door opens to the company box, and I get a tap on the shoulder. And it is from one of the then administrators, Jonathan Friend. And he whispers in my ear, and he says, Agnes Balsa is leaving after the first act. You're going to have to sing the rest of the opera. I said, all right. So I sent my husband home to get my castanets. I got into a dressing room. I had a costume. They did not tell the rest of the cast. They made an announcement to the audience, and everybody cheered. I was so happy. They love me. They really do. But anyway, so I'm sitting there after, the Chanson Bohème and, all of that. And Viva, Viva Escamillo. And he walks out. He does a double take because he does not know that it is me, that it is I. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The next day, I'm back in the theater, and I'm watching a rehearsal with a bunch of artists. I don't remember what the opera was, but we were just watching a rehearsal. And TT is there. And she comes and sits behind me. And she leans over and she says to me, Isola, are you covering me for anything? So I don't know what they thought. I put the voodoo on, put the evil on, the malocchio on Agnes Balsa. I didn't. She got sick. She went on. But I never actually did any performances with her, but she was a gorgeous, gorgeous singer. The very first time I heard her sing was in Chicago. I was in the chorus, Chicago Symphony Chorus, and we were performing Alexander Nevsky. Alexander Nevsky was written by Prokofiev, I think it's Prokofiev. And it was originally written for a silent movie, for the story Alexander Nevsky. He was a very famous Russian patriot general that won this big war. And it was made for a silent movie. This whole score was made for a silent movie. The penultimate movement is an aria, Olga's aria, and it is so gorgeous. It's a mezzo contralto aria. I mean, it's not what you would associate with Troyanos, because she sang really mezzo soprano. It was mezzo contralto. It was the most gorgeous thing you ever wanted to hear. Just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. But I never sang with her. I was never in a cast with her. But she just had that one question for me that day. Are you covering me? No, darling, I'm not. You're safe for now.
Was it just happenstance that you were literally just in the audience and knew the role and everything to cover her?
I was singing Carmen. I was sharing those performances with her.
Oh, okay.
I was already singing Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
The production was from the original production that Bizet wrote. So it had lots of spoken dialogue. There were no sung recitatives. And the opening, this was maybe the second season. This was not the first season. It was 2 seasons. The first season, I shared all of my performances with Maria Ewing. Now, at that time, she was married to Sir Peter Hall, who was the successor to Olivier at the National Theatre in London. This is very interesting. So I was sitting, again, watching the staging for the Carmen. Maria comes in late. I'm not sure what happened, but she comes in late. She sings the rehearsal. I'm watching the rehearsal. I have my own rehearsals. And after 3 or 4 performances, she cancels. And I have to sing. And the Don Jose is Placido Domingo. And this was before I was scheduled to sing. So I sang 2 seasons of Carmen's. And it was wonderful. The production itself really did not look like Spain. It looked more like London. And working with Sir Peter Hall, he might have been a great Shakespearean director, but he really, I don't think he really understood the nature of Carmen, because he said this to me. She's like Eliza Doolittle. I didn't say anything. I said, thank you. Thank you. That's wrong. Okay, thanks. All right. No. Anyway, those Carmens were wonderful. I was offered lots of Carmens and at La Scala, but James Levine would not release me from the Met to go to Scala. These were before I was going to sing my Carmens at the Met. He wouldn't release me to go to Scala because he wanted me to make my debut with Carmen there.
I found an interview of you from 1984. I want to say it was 84. And you were talking about Carmen because the reporter was asking, why weren't you singing like internationally yet? Or it was something along those. I'll have to find again. I want to say you were in Seattle. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yeah, I sang Carmen in Seattle.
Okay. And I feel like your answer was something like you were looking for management or you hadn't had it yet or something like that.
The way I arrived at the Met was very unconventional.
Mm-hmm.
It was purely God. And I had no management for 7 years. I was there for 7 years before I got management. And that would have been around 1984, 85. And I had management for a while. And then I thought, I don't need management. The international part of it was kind of tricky, more political than I had imagined. I'm not going to name any names, but I was hired to sing Carmen at the Arena in Verona. And the man who, the general manager of the Arena, died. So the new management wanted me to come back to Verona for him to see me. And they reinstated my contract, but there was a certain mezzo who I'm not going to mention, kind of threw her weight around and replaced me. She is no longer with us. Don't try to figure out who it is. As far as I was concerned, my singing internationally is not something that I necessarily wanted. And I know that there was a period, and of course there was a period, when Americans had to leave the United States to have a career. The German-speaking countries have the most opera houses anywhere on earth. And I have lots of friends who are Kammersängerin in maybe in Salzburg or Dresden or places, houses like that. And coming to the United States is difficult for them to get to be recognized because they are considered house singers. I don't think that not singing in a lot of theaters in Europe had really any impact one way or the other. My life had a trajectory that I'm happy with. I have no regrets. I have quality of life. I do what I love. I'm still singing and teaching and doing what I want. What else is there? And I still look good. You saw my video. Don't I look good? Don't I look?
She's mine.
Listen, I have colleagues that may be 20 years younger than I am. Don't look half as good. Or sound half as good. So I have no complaints.
Okay, one more question about the role of Carmen. And then we have a couple more viewer questions. I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this. A lot of these girls who make a career just singing strictly Carmen's, they at some point end up not singing well. So is it the Carmen's that have the effect on the voice, or is it the technique wasn't there to begin with?
My best guess would be that the technique wasn't there to begin with.
Okay.
Because both sopranos and mezzos sing Carmen. I mean, it's in the middle range. So both categories, both voice categories sing the role. And it is the top note, maybe an A flat. But if you don't have a good technique, if the voice is not flexible, if you don't manage that passaggio, if it's not smooth, you end up singing a lot of it, kind of pushing the voice in the middle, and then the top suffers. And as the top suffers and gets kind of wooden, your range will shrink. I mean, it is a fun role to sing. It's got everything. But the odds are that the technique was not there to begin with, that they have a certain amount of natural ability. And since it's right in the middle of the voice, right in the middle of your range, it's negotiable. I mean, you can do it. But as you celebrate birthdays, all of that youthful flexibility, just like every place else, might disappear. Therefore, You have to learn how to really use your instrument. As your body, celebrates lots of birthdays, you have to get into the gym, start moving, start lifting weights, start stretching. Youth is wasted on the young. It's not wasted on the young, but they just aren't aware of the potential that they have. They sort of take it for granted. And then one day it's not working. It's not because it can't work. It's because you have to know now, consciously, how it works.
And speaking of how it works, one person asks, this question is from Girl Brittany Girl.
Mhm.
Is it too late for her to teach a 37-year-old woman how to sing?
I've got students in their 60s and in their 70s, and I am still taking voice lessons. And I'm 75. So it's not too late. The only thing that will prevent anyone from learning is their inability to change. Because learning, by definition, means that you don't know something. And you have to be willing to change. You have to be willing to learn. And I'll go even farther. Singing is extremely easy. What is difficult is letting go of wrong ideas about how the voice operates, letting go of security blankets that involve lots of tension and manipulation, or even your just preconceived ideas about how it should feel and sound. Most of the time, it's going to be the polar opposite of everything you believed was true.
Continuing in that vein, this question is from E. Pertmos Taina. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the question is, what can contemporary singers learn from opera singers? Sidebar, how do you feel that a lot of people say opera singer instead of classical singer? Because isn't opera is the theater aspect?
Well, opera is a specific discipline. Classical music can include art songs, song cycles. Opera singers tend to do both. I don't know of anyone who sang, like Neapolitan art songs, or Italian art songs, or German lieder, or French chanson that didn't also sing opera. And those used to be very popular. People used to give concerts and recitals. You don't hear that. You don't hear of that these days. They will sing a concert, Kiriti Kanawa or Marilyn Horne. Would sing maybe some popular songs or something on Broadway, but you don't even hear that because I don't think that there is an audience for that anymore. That is considered maybe vocal chamber music. You don't hear Mahler song cycles anymore, or Schubert. You just don't hear them. And it's a shame, but the public seems to want spectacle, and that's what opera is. It's got everything.
Okay, so back to the question. What can contemporary singers learn from opera singers?
Well, it depends on what they're learning and what they want to learn. I mean, you can listen to the quality of the music as opposed to the quality of music of Mozart or Puccini or Verdi or Bizet compared to contemporary singers, contemporary music written by maybe, I don't know if she's a composer, is Lady Gaga or Billie Eilish or I don't know. I don't know if he writes, Teddy Swims. I don't know. It depends on what you're listening for. Are you listening for the quality of the voice? Are you listening to the range, the person's vocal range? Now, maybe some rock singers have a wide range, but what does it sound like? Does it sound like singing, or does it sound like yelling? What exactly are they looking for? Are they looking for a beautiful sound? Some popular singers may have a beautiful sound, or it might be just a nice voice that's sort of kind of paper thin. I don't know. You're going to have an emotion. You can't say that I don't feel anything. You're going to have an emotion. And it just depends on what you're looking for and what you're listening for. There's popular music that, I like Teddy Swims, but I'm not listening to him for the beauty of the sound. I'm listening to the intensity of his singing and what he's singing and how he's singing it. But I would not compare that to Luciano Pavarotti. It's just like something very different. I appreciate it for what it is, and I understand what it isn't. I hope that answers his question or her question.
I guess they're saying like singing wise, what can contemporary singers learn from opera singing? But I feel like, but I guess that did cover it because I don't know if they were specific about what specifically they wanted.
Right. He has something in mind, or she has something in mind.
Okay. Well, they'll probably comment and specify, and we'll ask on the next episode. But speaking of someone whose question you answered on the last episode had a follow-up question, and they said, it's from Eli Ward. They said, of course, I must seize every opportunity to learn from this living legend. My question is, where does the middle voice of a man typically sit, and how does he know he's gone from his chest to his middle? Also, what is different about a baritone's middle compared to the tenors?
The baritone's middle voice. Basses and baritones primarily sing in chest register. So let's see. A bass. C2, C3, C4. By the time he gets to middle C, which would be C4, he is now in a mix. He is now at the very, very top of his range. And that would be considered the middle voice for him and the top for him. Tenors start C3, C4. Their high C is C5. They sing primarily with a mix. It's kind of like mezzos. They sing with a mix. But that mix, again, has to be very, very delicate. It's a delicate mix. Otherwise, it's going to sound like a shout or they're screaming. And those muscles, those M1 and M2 muscles, have to be strengthened. And it is not by putting a lot of pressure on the vocal cords. There is this thing called subglottal pressure that they start the pitch, they start the spin and intensify the spin. They don't address the vocal cords directly. They intensify the spin. Are the vocal cords involved? Of course, but they aren't going to the vocal cords to do anything. Basses and baritones primarily sing in chest register. As they approach the top, so there's going to be four notes at the very top that is a mix, but everything else is in chest register. There's no mix there. But at the very top, there is this, it's a kind of a flip, but it is very important that there is for the tenor voice, it's a mix. He sings pretty much in a mix all the time, whereas basses and baritones don't. I hope that, does that kind of come close to answering the question?
I would say so, and it helped me understand my voice as well. I was doing some vocalize. I don't sing that much anymore, but I got up to like D4ish, and that about I almost saw, Jesus's feet. It was like my body like really tightens up once I get to around.
Well, okay. The idea that you have to force the voice to do anything is not the best way to approach the voice. Singing should be and should feel easy. If it doesn't feel easy, then you are working against yourself and you're working against having a wide range. Because if it's like this, it's not like this. Yes, you support the voice. Yes, you support the voice with the breath. But this is absolutely free. You don't prepare the voice. You don't prepare the vocal cords through tension at all. You don't, it's like put a do not disturb sign here. It is all about, because the vocal cords don't care one way or another what note you're singing. Only we care what note we're singing. The vocal cords don't. And if you understand that the vocal folds are here, they're in a fixed low position, twin enfoldings of mucous membrane, have every note that you will ever sing. Unlike the piano that has 88 keys. Unlike violin. The only thing that operates the vocal folds is your imagination. And so it is imperative that, first of all, you understand that it's supposed to feel easy, it's supposed to be easy. Then go back and figure out, does it feel easy? Does it sound easy? Because if it doesn't feel and sound easy, then there are self-imposed restrictions by the operator that are unnecessary. That's all I'm going to say.
Yes. So that concludes the questions for the viewers.